a minute. Hey. Well, hi again. I'm Mark. I'm the amateur cowboy, and here with my trusty steed Bull as usual. But I've also got something interesting going on here. I've got a kind of a new horse here to me anyway. She's a mare, and I call her the Black. I haven't decided whether to buy her or not yet. I really don't think I want to name her until I decide, but even after I buy her, I still may call her the Black. She's come to me with an uncertain past. Don't really know what's happened, but I don't think she's been abused. I think she's been misunderstood, like most horses. And you know, when we get a horse, we never really know typically that the road that horse has traveled. And I try to remember that whenever I deal with a new horse. We just don't know. And she's trying so hard, and she's learning really quick, but there are some issues. And so, for example, when I first got her, if I'd walk off with her on a lead, she'd walk up on my heels, or maybe even go in front of me. And that's something I just do not tolerate in a horse. And so I had to teach her that she's perfectly fine and safe staying back behind me. And if I come to a stop when I'm walking, she better come to a stop when I'm walking. Otherwise, I'm going to have to back her up. So the other thing that happens is just a side benefit of that is when you do stop, you kind of back your horse up a little bit. They'll start to lighten up in the front. So we'll see if we can just kind of let Bull hang out. He's a professional standing horse, as I like to say, so he's not going to go far. Plus, we're in a round pen. So let me move this horse off here just a little. Now, I've had to work at getting her to move that hind quarter off, but now if I want to back her up, see, I can just tell her back up and back up a little more. Now that's going to lighten up that front end because she's going to be thinking back. So, you know, one of the things a lot of people do is constantly feed their horses treats. They get up in their face and they feed them treats. All that does is teach that horse to get a little heavy on the front end. So I personally don't like to use treats that much. I have had times where it works really well. Bull here is a professional skeptic, and he does not always want to come to me. In fact, what we call the draw, he's really bad at. So every now and then, a little bit of a treat, and he gets a little more interested in me. But I try not to overdo it. So again, I can just move this horse back just like that. You see how quickly she learns. She used to just be walking right up on my heels. So what I want to do today is get on my horse Bull here and just pony this new horse around a little bit and see how that goes. I think it's going to go really well. Have not had her out on the trail yet, so this is just sort of one of the things I want to do before I get her out there. Now, the other thing I'll say about this horse is when I got her, everything meant go. So if I sat here and twirled this rope, she'd start, you know, going in a circle around me. If I went like this, she'd start going in a circle around me. So I'm trying to desensitize her a little bit so that she doesn't just go every time I make some kind of motion or she's confused. In fact, I just want her to learn that certain cues mean go and everything else does not mean go. So let me get on Bull and we'll go give this a shot. Now, Bull here has been through all my desensitizing training and everything else. He's just absolute dreamboat to be around and to be on. And it just feels good to be back on him. It's early spring here in the Rockies. I spent about 2 hours with these two horses, had them tied up to my trailer, and I was just grooming them. And I call that just undemanding time. I get to be with my horses. They don't have to do anything. In fact, I even threw some hay down so they'd be able to eat and hang out. Wanted to see how these two horses would behave next to each other, tied up to a trailer, because if I'm going to buy that black mare, I want to make sure she gets along with my horse. Now, the herd here consists of 4 geldings, and I just introduced her to the herd about a week ago. She quickly moved herself into the number 2 spot. Bull here is he is the head of the herd, but he does it in a quiet way. He's not a bully. She went out into the herd and immediately started turning her butt and firing both guns toward anybody that dared get too close. But it wasn't too long before she became number two, and she and Bull seem to have become pals. There's a buckskin in the herd that's always been kind of a problem around mares, and this is no exception, but at least in this case, she's basically established herself and said, dude, don't mess with me. And so it's actually kind of funny to watch, because he can't stand up to her. She's just a little too much for him. So anyway, let me go ahead and ask my horse here to lift his head, and I try to do that in the nicest possible way. And I'm going to back, but I don't like to jerk on the reins and pull their head up. There are much, well, let's just say classier ways of doing it. Now there he's going to lower his head, and I'm just going to let him bump into the bit. I didn't pull, I just tightened my grip and said, well, you can bump into it, and you're not going to like that. So, let's just talk about how do I back this horse. Well, very light rein pressure, and I'm looking up over the camera and letting him just kind of go back. So the back is one of my favorite things to teach, because I think that it requires a lot of understanding about horsemanship. You start just gnarling back on the reins, it's not going to look nice. It doesn't look, well, we'll just use that word classy again. So let me go ahead and I'm going to let that black mare graze, and I'm going to move Bull off to the left, just check some things out. Do I have hind quarter disengagement? Yes, I do. Oh. Do I have the hoe? And there I do. Now I'm going to move the right shoulder off and let him move forward. Now these are pretty basic things, but I haven't been on this horse in a little over 2 months. For one thing, it's been winter here, but even more than that, I had hip surgery. And in the last 6 months, I've had both hips replaced. And I can tell you, being on a horse after that, for me, is an amazing thing, because riding horses used to hurt. It was a weird thing that something I loved so much physically hurt me. And it was frustrating too, because I'd be off on trail rides with friends, and every 45 minutes I'd say, hey folks, can we take a break and stop? And I don't have to do that anymore. So even though this is the first time I've been on Bull since the second hip surgery, I know enough from the first hip surgery that was 6 months ago, that this is going to be great. So pretty exciting for me. So glad to be back on my horse. Let's go ahead and get this black mare by that lead. I'm going to go off camera here, and I may have to kind of like kick her a little bit, because she's well, she's gonna be a little difficult here. I want to make sure she doesn't go to kicking us. She's pinning her ears, and may have to do something here to there we go. Now I kind of smacked her. You might have heard that. Now somebody a long time ago told me, when you smack a horse like that, it's kind of like you getting whipped by a sock. It's no big deal. In fact, it hurt my hand more than it hurt her. But she had her head between the rails of the round corral, and I needed to do something to get her head up and get her head away from the grass, because I couldn't reach down and get the lead the way it was. So sometimes you do what you have to do, but I like what I'm seeing here. She's following nicely. Now, she's not right behind me, so I'm going to fix that by getting Bull in front of her, and now she won't do it. So I'm going to send her back, so that she learns to stay behind us. I don't like a horse when I'm ponying them to get in front of me or to get up by my side. That is not cool. If you ever pack horses in the mountains, you know there are all kinds of trees and things that if one horse gets off to the side, your lead rope's gonna end up hitting that tree. You want your horse to follow you right behind the horse you're on. Not head or nose in the butt of the horse you're on, but right behind you, single file. So I'm gonna stop my horse. And she stopped, and she even took a step back, which was nice because she's a little close. Now I'm gonna back her as I back my horse, and that's nice. Better. Back her up a little bit more. That's nice. See, this horse, this black mare, she wants to get along. She's looking for the answer. She's learned to bend in the last 3 or 4 days. When I first got her, I tried to bend her just from the ground, and she would brace. In fact, she would, if I tried to bend her head to the right, she'd bend her head to the left. That's going away very quickly. This backing is really nice. I don't know if you can see her now because we're a little bit off, but I might ask for a trot and see what happens. There. Now she seems to be quite willing to trot with us. I like that a lot. Come into the camera. And stop and back up. I'm going to back my horse and back her all the way. Good. Well, I have to say I'm pretty excited about this mare. As you can see, she's a pretty willing horse. Gets along with my horse well. I'm sure putting a pack saddle on her is not going to be any problem at all. She probably never smelled a dead elk or anything, but I'm not worried about that. We know how to take care of that. That's pretty easy. And what I got to see with this horse, and come forward here. Somebody's coming up the driveway. What I got to see with this horse is what happens when I get her out alone, put a saddle on her, ride her down the trail, start running into bicyclists and dogs and people with strollers and all that kind of weird stuff. I want to see what she's like then. I think she's going to be good. But that's going to be the last thing I do with her before I say, yeah, I want to buy her. I've already been through the vet check. I had her feet trimmed. She's totally sound. And I like the way she trains up. So really got to see what she does out on the trail and when I get her away from all the other horses. Let me bring her up now by me. And this is just kind of a fun exercise here. Come on, Black. There. Ooh. Oh. So, hope you've enjoyed that. I know I have. Looking forward to doing more with this horse. I'm Mark, I'm the Amateur Cowboy.